So this is the park. Well, one of three parks. This is my second attempt to come down here today to record this. It was too hot and I couldn't. So I'm just going to give you a little view, and it's really nice here. I hope the background noise won't cut in, so I'm just going to swing around the camera and let you have a look. And I'm sitting here at the picnic table recording this. So I've never done a live or recorded anything. Not really. This is my first, and no doubt I'll make some rookie mistakes. But um, there is a topic I would like to discuss, and it's the church's influence on this migration situation that we have at the moment. And this is what's being read from the lectern at masses in Ireland. And it might explain some of the reasons why we are where we are. I'm going to try and get the position right in this thing. I'm making that funny myself. Most people won't be aware of this unless you're a regular churchgoer. You won't be aware. I'm not a regular churchgoer. I go to the church in my time, not in the church's time. But I am a Christian. So some of us will have seen what has happened with Enoch Burke. Now, as far as I know, he's Church of Ireland or Presbyterian. Or I don't think they're part of the regular Catholic congregation. I don't know for sure. But he is a Christian, undoubtedly. And we've seen how he has approached their ministers and basically been told, forget about it, we're not going to do anything for you and we're not going to help. Well, that's because all of the churches in Ireland are on board with this agenda. So the same people that abused the boys in the industrial schools, the same people who locked up women that had children outside of wedlock that could have been raped by a family member or a neighbour or whatever, they're the exact same people that are on board with this agenda. So the church has always had a good foothold in Ireland. It's it's always been there. It's been there for centuries, centuries. But it went into overdrive once the Free State was formed. And the church worked hand in hand with the Irish government for the persecution of children in this country. It's just we're in a new agenda. But the persecution of the Irish has been going on for centuries. and the persecution by the church has been going on hyperdrive since the Free State was formed. Many books have been written about the priests and the nuns in Ireland, and none of them treated those children well. I went to a convent in national school, and they were barbaric enough in the 70s. They still had big long bamboo sticks and special instruments to beat Irish children. And as we know, there was a culture at the time where beating children was acceptable, even in family homes. Um, the church is complicit with what's going on. And it's like old boss, same as the new boss. It's exactly what's going on. Now, I hope my camera doesn't fall down or whatever. If it does, I'll just put it back up. So I'm going to read a leaflet that's being distributed at churches. This is about 6 months old. And I was trying to find the time, the space, and the confidence to do this. And it will explain why a lot of middle-aged people or churchgoers are on board with the agenda. It's the browbeating of the Irish again. Same culprits, different agenda. So when I say I'm a Christian, I'm a Christian. That doesn't mean I'm living inside the church at all. So what I'm about to read to you is like an instruction manual for Christians within Ireland. Here we go. Right and reason, the Irish experience abroad should remind us of the empathy we show to those seeking shelter on our shores. So empathy, understanding. It's to shame people into accepting what's going on in Ireland. Where's your empathy? Where's your humanity? Haven't we heard that before? Where's your humanity? Now, there's something wrong with you if you haven't got humanity or empathy. But in actual fact, what it is to shame people. This was written by Dr. Gary Carville, Executive Secretary of the Commission for Social Issues and International Affairs of the Irish Catholic Bishops' Conference. Céad Míle Fáilte, or 100,000 welcomes. This deep-rooted sense and tradition of hospitality woven into our national identity and Christian spiritual heritage faces a new challenge. Now, whoever wrote this obviously will have a nice string of spin doctors, propagandists, controllers. They control the narrative. And this is how they're getting away with it. It reads as follows. For Christians, welcoming migrants is not only a societal duty, but a sacred obligation, echoing Christ's call to serve the least amongst us. This is why the Irish Catholic Bishops' Conference has published a pastoral letter, 100,000 welcomes. on the subject of migration, seeking to affirm once again the universal right to human dignity and to encourage all people to make their parishes, homes, and lives places of hospitality and sanctuary. So I've underlined a few words there. Obligation. Obligation to feel obliged, necessary, duty bound. Another word was hospitality. So we're to be hospitable to these people. To be hospitable, even if somebody calls to your house, to be hospitable, you give them whatever is there. You give them the best of whatever is there. Not the worst, the best. You lay the table, you cook a meal, you give them whatever the best of what's in your cupboard. Sanctuary, a safe place, a haven. So what they're asking us to do, firstly, it's our sacred obligation. The two very, very powerful words. We're to be hospitable. So hospitable rather, to be like a hostess. You give them the best of what you have. And a sanctuary. You're to make them feel safe. Now, there are some words here outlined. They've outlined them. Migrants, 100,000 welcomes. St. Patrick, Ireland, Pope Francis, Ireland's struggle to integrate migrants and housing shortages. So they have outlined those key words themselves. And when people read these leaflets, those outlined words are outlined for a very good reason. They're highlighted. That goes into the subconscious of people reading these leaflets, where the narrative is going to be pushed down their throat whether they like it or not. The words have been highlighted, so if you take nothing away from this, you'll be left with the word migrant, 100,000 welcomes, St. Patrick, Ireland, Pope Francis, Ireland's struggle to integrate migrants. They're the key words you'll take away. A vital part of the Irish identity is the Catholic faith, a migrant's faith itself. St. Patrick, an immigrant and former slave, brought the gospel to Ireland, and the Irish diaspora helped spread that faith around the world. Pope Francis, the son of migrants, has consistently spoken of the dignity and sanctity of the migrant journey. He challenges us to see beyond labels: migrant, refugee, asylum seeker, and to recognize the shared humanity we have with each individual. So we know that the Vatican is on board with Agenda 2030. We know that. Any changes that are coming in through the WEF, the United Nations, the EU, the Vatican are on board. So there is no separation between them. And you'll see there how they're incorporating St. Patrick into the narrative that he too was a migrant. We remember Leo Varadkar saying that at some podium somewhere, but I remember him mentioning, oh, St. Patrick was a migrant. And we're like, Really? Yeah, he was a slave boy minding sheep up in Mayo or something, wasn't it? Or Sligo, somewhere up along the west. But to equate St. Patrick as being a migrant to today's migrants is really a bit of a stretch. It's a big stretch. So you're going to hear of a lot of emotional terrorism here in this leaflet as I read it out to you. That's how I describe it, emotional terrorism. Because you see, when we were in lockdowns, you got to save Granny. Because if you don't save Granny, then there's something wrong with you. They will always get you through your emotions. They'll either shame you into it, browbeat you into it, call you names if you don't do as they ask. But the problem will always be you, never them, always you. So they try to make you feel like a bad person for thinking critically, logically, sane, to be sane about a situation. But they don't want you thinking. They just want you to do. And they know we're emotional beings. And that's how they'll get us. And that's how they've got us. So I say this sometimes, and I don't mean to sound harsh or anything like that. But sometimes you got to put your emotions to one side for what's happening here now in Ireland at the moment and in business. You have to. You've got to be very cold about it. In many ways, Ireland's struggle to integrate migrants is not a new challenge. Now that's been underlined, by the way, but a modern chapter in an old story. So I'm going to read that again. In many ways, Ireland's struggle to integrate migrants is not a new challenge. Well, actually, it is a new challenge. I don't ever remember migrants coming in on this scale, but a modern chapter in an old story. So there's confusion in that sentence, and it's contradictory. Migration has been central to Irish history for centuries. Yes, it has. And I wonder why that is. From the Great Famine of 1845 to 1852 in the 19th century. Now, we could elaborate on how much of a famine that was as opposed to a genocide. It was an orchestrated famine, which saw the exodus of millions to the economic migrations of the 1950s and 1980s. Now, I was part of that 1980s migration out of Ireland, and it was very difficult. I had a job, but I wanted to do better. So they're working in here the 1950s and 1980s migration out of Ireland. They're comparing that to the migration coming into Ireland now. The Irish have long been a people involuntarily on the move. Well, yes, they have. And a lot of that is down to government policy as well, because they didn't know what they were doing most of the time. So there's a contradictory statement in that Ireland's struggle to integrate migrants is not a new challenge. It is a new challenge. Today, however, Ireland is more a destination than a point of departure. Well, I beg to differ there. With all the youngsters leaving Ireland, Australia's the hot spot for it, and a lot of them are not coming back. So Ireland is more a destination than a point of departure. That's actually incorrect. That's incorrect. Is it 50, 60, 70,000 in roughly that are leaving with a yearly inward migration of 150,000 roughly? And with this change comes a new set of responsibilities and opportunities. So the word responsible and opportunities. So we are responsible. It's our responsibility. So we have day-to-day responsibilities to our children, our family, our parents, our jobs, our neighbours, how we conduct our business. We like to act responsibly. Yeah. But they're telling us that this comes with a new set of responsibilities and opportunities. Now, I'm not sure what opportunities they're talking about. I don't know what opportunity I see in this. It's a drain. Many migrants arrive in Ireland seeking refuge from war, persecution, or economic hardship. So this is being pressed into the minds of people while they're there in the church adoring their God. There are people coming into Ireland running away from war, persecution, or economic hardship. We know that's not true. We know that's not true. They're going through multiple safe countries. They're crossing the English Channel, the Irish Sea to get to Ireland. They're not running from any wars or persecution or economic hardship. They are here for what they can get. But to the people that are at the church, they're not aware, you see, because that vital information is being withheld from them on RTE and the newspapers. We know better. They bring with them skills, talent, and hopes for a better future. A better future for who? Is it for us? I don't think so. I don't think it's a better future. I was very happy the way things were. Very happy. We had enough trouble of our own. We didn't need to import anything. And this skills and talents, if the government might pay the Irish nurses on completion of training, these Irish nurses wouldn't be leaving in their droves. So therefore we wouldn't need migrants coming into the country to fill those places inside in Irish hospitals and care homes and care settings at a lower rate, I might add. I think it was the Headington Road Agreement that lowered the wages for them that time, the nurses and doctors, and to a point you can't blame them for wanting to leave. But the government created a scenario where the Irish nurses and doctors didn't have much of a choice but to leave because the terms and conditions were so bad. They can't buy houses. They can't start families. Yet the reality they face is often far from the idealized image of 100,000 welcomes. Yeah, boo-hoo. We don't want them here. We don't want them here, and we never will. So what's underlined as well is housing shortages. Job opportunities and the social tensions that arise from rapid demographic changes. Now, this is what they're writing themselves. Rapid demographic changes. They know it's rapid. Nobody has seen anything like this before. Can make the Irish welcome feel conditional at best. Well, I thought we were always very hospitable. group of people in Ireland. Um, but maybe when we see our youngsters being attacked, beaten up in parks, beaten up at bus stations, our youngsters, our very small children being stabbed, that will create hostility. That will create tension naturally. So our Irish welcome has been tested by the same token when we feel that our welcome is being abused. Fearful and angry voices calling for closed borders grow louder, stoked by misinformation and economic anxiety. Yes, there is economic anxiety. So currently at the moment, roughly 46% of university graduates cannot find work. So that's 4 years after doing a degree at a university or college or whatever. So the economic anxiety is very real when our youngsters who have put themselves through the rigors of third level education cannot find work. And then they're overqualified for other positions. So you're damned if you don't get qualified, and you're damned if you do get qualified. And as we know, the migrants are being fast-tracked into the country via visas. They're being advertised in other countries, these positions. And on top of that, employers are given a €7,500 grant to take on a migrant over an Irish national. So when you go to these places, be it petrol stations, shops, care homes, hospitals, you name it, makes no difference. Those migrants, their employers have been given a €7,500 incentivizing bonus not to take on an Irish youngster or adult, which I think is disgusting. Yet as Christians, we are reminded of the gospel imperative. So it's a gospel imperative. Now, for something to be imperative, it means it's essential. It's non-negotiable. It has to be done. So they're getting people here now through the term gospel imperative. This is from the gospel, so therefore it has to be done. Demonstrated in the parable of the Good Samaritan. Again, we're using emotional blackmail here. To love our neighbour. So we have to love our neighbour. It's not enough now that we have to tolerate our neighbour. We have to love our neighbour. The same neighbour that might decide that they're just going to wreak havoc on the street or in public or just be a very bad neighbour. We're not allowed now not to feel bad about these people. We have to love our neighbour. Who is everyone to care for the stranger in our midst? So we have to care for these people because we are Christians. Will they care for us? I'm not talking about nursing staff. That's their damn job, right? They wanted the job. They got the job. They're here now, right? Thank you should be enough. But we have to care for the stranger in our midst because we're a good Samaritan. And to recognize the sacredness of each life, regardless of nationality. Now, I have great issue with that statement. We have to recognize the sacredness of each life, regardless of nationality. Where were the church when The abortion referendum was going on. Nice and quiet, weren't they? Very quiet, very quiet. So the sacredness of each life is only relevant if it's not an Irish unborn baby. It's only relevant if it's a non-national coming to our shores. But if it's abortion, the gloves are off. Makes no difference. Church were very quiet then. Now we know why. Reflecting on Ireland's history as a migrant nation helps provide perspective. So now they're going to provide the perspective for us. So to provide perspective, they're going to tell us how we should look at it. Our people, for generations, experienced hostility, prejudice, and exclusion when they sought new lives abroad. That is very true. Yes, we did. No blacks, no Irish, no dogs. We did. But what did we do? We worked our way out of it. There was no welfare for us, I can tell you. We worked our way out of it. We took the toughest, hardest jobs that many did not want to do. And sometimes, most of the times, on very low wage. But we were there to get on, and we were there to succeed. Failure wasn't an option. We had no choice. The Irish abroad should remind us of the deep empathy we owe those seeking shelter on our shores. So what they're saying there is we should care for those seeking shelter on our shores. So the pain of our forefathers having to leave this country, we have to inherit that pain in this day and age to find the pain of the migrant, what they could be going through. So they're equating the migrant situation with occupation of Ireland for 800 years and the starvation of millions. Now, I will be doing a few excerpts from a book sometime in the autumn and for the winter.